I use an AI voice to make listening easier for viewers, to make subtitles easier, and to avoid me having to edit my voice or edit out filler words like, and pauses. Anyway, we'll start off with me saying really quick, chick gets pulled over for tinted windows, which are an obvious no-no, and chick not surprisingly doesn't comply with lawful orders. Chick gets arrested. This has not surprisingly become a civil rights case. Civil rights are messy because a lot of the time they are based on what laymen want. Sometimes they get it wrong. Sometimes they get it right. If 100 toothless drug-addled homeless campers and squatters with piss-soaked, shit-stained trousers rallied in front of a municipal venue, demonstrating for days that they want rights to camp on sidewalks, in parking lots and in parks, I bet you the local officials will probably enact a policy that lets them. And/or policing of the homeless camps and protection of legal properties and storefronts right where they camp will become even more lax in response. Now this isn't about the homeless. It is an example of how civil rights are enacted, that suddenly even the homeless can campaign for them and influence politics, especially if they get sympathetic protesters to foolishly join. Your rights are an entitlement within the law. You have to discern, when speaking with police during apprehension, when your rights come into play, versus just abiding by the law. Unless you are being asked by a cop to do something unlawful, such as to suck his cock during a routine traffic stop without telling you why you were pulled over, then you can disobey at your own risk. Needless to say, if something is against the law, it is automatically against your rights. However, if they tell you why you have been pulled over first, keyword first, and then tell you to operate your window, show ID, to get off your phone while being questioned, to remain inside or exit the vehicle, etc., then you must fucking do it. Your perceived rights do not come into play whatsoever, because law enforcement are not breaking the law during this process. Refusing to do any of these things is breaking the law, and therefore your rights are generally nullified, as the act of breaking the law overrides your perception of rights. There are probably no official written rights anywhere, anyway, that exist allowing someone to ignore police orders during apprehension. You can plead the fifth, but pleading the fifth means to remain silent. It does not mean to ignore the cops' questions and orders, but to continue arguing with them. You have just waived the Fifth Amendment. If you plead the fifth, you must literally remain silent. During investigation, which is totally different, Miranda rights is the primary right. Asking for ID and to operate your window for tint testing do not qualify for Miranda rights. And her behavior does not qualify for the Fifth Amendment. More about that later. That being said, it is clear that arbitrary outrage and emotional thinking from onlookers regarding this, case, will or could influence the outcome. I am not an arbitrary, outrageous, emotional thinker. So I'm tapping in to say something about this stupid shit. It was just another day. I was browsing YouTube, and one of my favorite things to do is watching police body cam videos. It educates me and solidifies my value system and political leanings. I stumble across a video in the middle of a browsing spree where I was adding a bunch of videos indifferently to the playlist queue, and I ended up adding this video about a lady being pulled over by police. Once autoplay hit its spot in the queue with no excited anticipation whatsoever, I start to see some issues with how the police were handling this case. The way they handled this case is why the bitch got away with her foul actions. And why the police are now being sued. Despite having reason to pull her over. Congratulations for being a black woman who got away with a petty crime after being arrested too, though. However, the issue is letting loudmouth hoodrats take control of the conversation. You are a cop, not a customer service agent. You don't have to sit there and endure someone ignoring you, over-talking you, yelling, refusing to comply with lawful reasonable requests and orders, talking on the phone with irrelevant parties, and obstructing investigation. This is disgusting. And the cops let her do it. Not because she has a little badge on her shirt. I've seen them let meth heads and minors and sovereign citizens and suspects with a dead body found in their home control the conversations too. Police really only seem to get a nut and remember that they're cops when it's time to lick Walmart and Target's asses regarding pesky shoplifters, most of whom are probably not shoplifters. They just got kidnapped into the loss prevention office being accused of skip scanning at the register as if they're trained cashiers. But that's another conversation. Anyway, back to this shambolic display of law enforcement. First issue, letting her bark on the phone. They should have requested her to hang up, stating that, unless he is her lawyer, it is obstruction. If the father were there in person acting the way he was over the phone, he would have been cold hard arrested, in the dirt, grass and mud, for literal obstruction. And maybe even a topping of disorderly conduct and assault of an officer, regarding that this behavior would be threatening face to face during an apprehension. Apprehension is stopping a suspect from carrying out or fleeing a crime, which mostly includes identification and investigation procedures to clear reasonable express suspicion, or to confirm suspicion to make an arrest. That is what cops do. The reasonable, expressed suspicion they had are her tinted windows. Tinted windows obviously are dangerous. Only the president, or a high-ranking law enforcement officer like the FBI, or someone high-profile during an ongoing case with police vehicle escorts, should have a vehicle with tinted windows. Cops do not know if this chick qualifies for tinted windows. They can only find out with apprehension. This is fucking obvious, and her stupid, ignorant, entitled ass doesn't know or care. Obstruction is preventing an officer from performing law enforcement procedures during apprehension. Unless I find something myself, or you post in the comments, any code or law that criminalizes or penalizes officers from slipping a suspect's phone out their hands during apprehension, then, one out of all these cops should have done just that. The most she can do is yell and try to get her phone back, both actions which should be ignored, without physically suppressing her, that is. Since this is only step 1. So, to summarize that, they should have ordered her to end the phone call and taken her phone if she did not end the phone call, due to obstructing an investigation. And they should arrest the father for his disgusting, egregious, obstructing behavior. The next issue is, she was further obstructing by not rolling up her window. Plead the Fifth does not cover operating a window for tint testing during a routine traffic stop regarding tint testing. Plead the Fifth is the right to remain silent and ignore questions. It is not the right to ignore lawful orders and obstruct an investigation during apprehension. She got away with her behavior this time. Because she is a corrections officer, sadly. Not because she is right. Also, she can sue if she wants, because she is American. It does not mean she will have success in court. They were not asking her, "Are your windows tinted?" Pleading the Fifth allows her to ignore such a question. They were telling her to roll it up during a routine traffic stop about her windows. She needs to roll them up. She didn't. She is lucky the cops are dullards. To the bitch's defense, the back windows of the car are rolled up. So if they need to test the tint, they could test those windows. If and only if, the front driver's side's window, the famous main character of this debacle, was rolled up and was of darker tint to the cop's eye and caused him to pull her over, then the front window does in fact need to be rolled up. Despite that, she is still obstructing an investigation by being on the phone, breaking the rules of the Fifth Amendment by not actually remaining silent, and by not following apprehension procedures. So lastly, the way I would have handled the case, if I were called to the scene for backup in another world, with a rundown on the issue is. First, if the bitch's engine is running, before I walked up to the car, I would have texted the cop who clearly needed help, "When I get to the car, go to the passenger side window. When I tap the roof of the car 3 times, reach in the passenger window and roll the window up as fast as you can." Assuming he can read and follow simple instructions, he would have texted back something like 10-4. I'd make my way to the driver's side window, tell her this is a routine traffic stop to test your windows for tinting. Roll your window up. If she doesn't do it or ignores me or starts yelling or keeps barking at her phone, I would tap the roof 3 times. The cop would press the passenger side window roll-up button as fast as he can, and I would have surprised everyone by reaching in her driver window and snatched the keys out the ignition mid-window roll. Now she can't turn the car back on to roll the window back down. Ha! If the car is off, I would have done the same, just added in instructions to wait for me to get the car to crank. Then he would reach in the passenger window. A little stepping back and brainstorming would have prevented this nonsense display of human behavior, and it would have prevented cops being sued for doing their job. Long story short, these cops need to get it the fuck together and handle these donkeys roaming our streets better. Stop begging suspects, especially the loudmouth ones.